we were talking about, yesterday we were talking about three examples, if you remember. A sailor going in an ocean, or a student going from school to college and then becoming a businessman. Then we gave the example of growing a plant into a tree producing fruits, isn't it? Similarly, in the path of spiritual life is a progressive life. In the Vedas, the word Arya is used. The meaning of the word Arya means one who is progressive towards the ultimate goal. And what is that ultimate goal? Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisham vishanti. Then it says tat jnananasva tat brahmeti. This is from Taittiriya Upanishad. It says those intelligent human beings who have become awakened, they can ask the question, where has all these living beings come from? What is that source? Janmadhyasya yataha. It is said, therefore, yataha va imani bhutani jayante. That means that Supreme Person from whom this whole material cosmos has sprung, from whom we all have come as his part and parcels. And in this world we are given the material bodies, and the material bodies are maintained, and the material bodies are destroyed. Then everything enters back into the absolute truth. So one can inquire, from where I have come from, I have to go back to that place. Just like if you take a stone and throw it, it comes back to earth. Isn't it? If there is a water from the ocean, it is taken by the sun evaporated and into the clouds, then it pours down, and as rivers it goes back to ocean. Isn't it? Like you've seen Ganga flows back into ocean again. Similarly, the spark of fire, it always approaches the sun because it is the element of the fire. It is from the fire, it wants to go back to fire. Similarly, the Jiva is a part and parcel of Supreme Lord. Being a part and parcel of the Lord, he has to go back to Supreme Lord. Those who can understand this fact, they are called Aryans. So in the Bhagavatam, there is a word used, Arya Sangame. Arya Sangam means, this is Arya Sangam, association of devotees who come together to think about the progressive life, the ultimate goal of life. And they are called Suras. Sura means Vishnu Bhakta Bhaved Dhaiva Asurastat Viparyayaha. The Vedas say that those who understand the Supreme Lord Vishnu and live according to his teachings in the scriptures, they are called Suras. Those who are ignorant about the laws of God and live a life in vain sense gratification, they are called Asuras. Yeah. So, the Suras are always very attentive about the progressive spiritual life to return back home, back to Godhead. Now you may have a question, why should one go back to Godhead? Why not be here? That is also explained in the scriptures, that when we are observing the living conditions in this world, there are many creatures like worms, snakes. For example, snakes have eyes, but they don't have ears. There are worms which have not all the five senses. But a human being has all the five developed senses. So the animals, birds, reptiles, and aquatics, all these creatures, they more or less try to figure out how to reduce suffering and continue living somehow. For example, the moment you get up in the morning, your mouth is stinking. You have to get a toothpaste and brush. For that, you have to do some job and bring toothpaste and brush. Then afterwards, your body is stinking. You have to take a bath. For that, you have to get soap. Then again, you have to do some job, earn money, and then get a soap. Isn't it? Then your stomach is hungry. You have to put food. Again, you have to do job, make some money, and put your food. After food, your belly is now thirsty now. Then you have to get drinking water. Get one Bisleri bottle, 20 rupees. Again, you need money for that. You will see that. So in this way, you will see, now some or other you eat, and then after eating, then you feel tired. Then you have to sleep. Now you cannot sleep at night. Some tiger or lion may attack. Then you need to build a house. Then again, you need money. Then you work hard. You build a house. Like that, for protection from thieves, rogues, dangerous creatures, animals, reptiles, and things like that. Is it not true? Then now, after some or other pacifying the body of all its sufferings. Then living entity thinks, now that everything is settled now I want to enjoy now. He wants to mate now. So he develops a hankering for the opposite sex. Then he has to search after the mate. And to maintain the mate, Prabhupada says, as soon as one wants the mate, then one needs a house. Like you will see the birds, when they are single, they will just fly here and there. When they want a mate, they have to make a nest. Because they have to lay the eggs. And the babies will come. Then you have to go and bring the food. Similarly, man wants a mate, then he has to build a house, he has to get a car, he has to get saris and ornaments, food, and then education for the children, health for all the family members. Then whole life goes in two things. Either trying to stop the sufferings, to get some things and stop the suffering, or to get some so-called happiness, one has to work very hard in this world. So whole life the living entity spend from the beginning of the birth up to the death, finding out what is suffering, how to stop the suffering. And after stopping suffering, I am little peaceful now, then look for hankering for enjoyment. That hankering is always there for mating. And if one wants to mate, somebody else also wants to mate with the same person, then defend. Like, hey, don't trouble, this is my mate, don't come. So this is how eating, sleeping, mating, the whole life goes. Now, somebody, for example, this chadar I am using now, is it a source of happiness or suffering? Right now in winter, it is a source of happiness. So when I cover my head, I feel very nice. Both ears are covered. Cold air cannot go, I feel happy. But the same thing in summer will become suffering. Because will you want to have a sweater in summer? It's painful for you. Now, how many of you love hot water now? In the morning, very nice. People want to be in the bathroom for a long time. But the same hot water becomes enemy in summer. That means a particular object in this world which is giving you happiness now can become source of suffering later. Harshishoka gave happiness to Chitraketu for some time. Then later on he gave suffering. Similarly, somebody thinks woman gives me happiness. Yes, she will give happiness. Later on she will become suffering. So in this world, all the objects, they sometimes give you suffering, sometimes give you happiness. So the living entities are trying to figure out which will give me happiness. Oh, this is giving me suffering. This is giving me happiness. This is giving me suffering. So they are picking, dropping. Whole life goes in that. Like this. And then suddenly, ultimately, life is suffering. Why? Because you will see inevitably all jivas go to old age, disease, death. Somebody is traveling in a ship, the ship is drowning. Is it happiness? Somebody is going in a plane, there's a plane crash. Is it happiness? So you will see that in this world, whether you want or not, we are picking suffering, happiness. Finally, there is only suffering. There is no question of happily lived ever after. I never hear that. So those living entities who are foolish and dull-headed, they simply keep on doing this from birth to death. But those who are Aryans, or intelligent people, they understand that this is the tamasha going on in this world. And I don't want to join this drama. So they look up. And when they look up, dharmam to sakshat bhagavat pranitam na vai vidu rishayo na pidevaha na siddha mukhya asura marushya utor vidya daracharanadayah. So this verse is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The ultimate dharma can only be taught by Supreme Lord Himself. Nobody else can teach it. Even great rishis, munis, Vidyadharas, Taranas, all these people cannot give you dharma. Dharma can only be given by Supreme Lord. So Lord Himself has given the Vedas. And in the Vedas, clearly it is taught to us what is pravritti, what is nivritti. What is to be done and what is not to be done. In this world also, people are picking up what to do, what not to do with their own brain. Like a pig is thinking, I will pick up stool, I will give up halwa. So from with his own little brain, that's what he knows. So if you pick and drop things based on your own little brain, you are going to pick wrong things. Why? Because in this world, things which will give you initially happiness will later give you suffering. Vishayandriya samyogat yad dadagre amritamiva parinamo vishopamam, he says. 18.38 Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says, a boy and girl, when they come together, initially they think it's going to be a life of happiness. Eventually there is anger, there is quarrel, there is divorce, and there is sorrow, and you have to give compensation, everything. All the problems. So initially it is happiness, eventually it is suffering. The contact of the senses and sense objects. On the other hand, the happiness and goodness, Krishna explains in 18.37, he says, Yad dadagre vishamiva parinamo amritopamam. He says, like rising early in the morning in a cold winter is painful. Sitting and chanting on Ekadashi day many rounds is painful. Is it not true? But although it's initially painful, eventually it will lead you in a progressive life back home, back to Godhead. So that is why those who are Aryans are very intelligent. They don't decide what is good or bad with their own brain. They decide from the word of God. Because dharma means God has given His words in the Vedas. Vedas say that these things will do good for you, ultimately. These things are bad for you. And that's what we follow. If God has spoken something, that is sublime truth, ultimate truth. Those who have firm faith in the Veda Vak and they faithfully follow that royal path laid by God, they cleanse their heart, they cleanse their mind and senses, and they are preparing for their way back home, back to Godhead. And then they live a life of Sattva Guna. Sattva Guna may be initially difficult, but eventually it produces everlasting happiness. If one leads a life aligned with God, like this. So, the ultimate goal of life is to return back to the place from where we have come. And if you don't return back to that place, in this material world, coming repeatedly means again and again, picking, dropping, different objects, trying to suppress the suffering, trying to hanker for happiness. Heart is burning with lust, anger and greed, and senses are demanding happiness and putting off suffering. This game is a very painful game. It's a game which you can never stop playing and you'll never become a winner in this world. You can never win, you can never stop playing. Go on and on, again and again and again. Therefore, the Vedas say that if you are a sailor in the ocean, you have to reach a destination. You can't be in the ocean always. If you are in the school, you can't be in the school. You have to complete and earn a degree and get settled and become a businessman. Similarly, if you are watering a plant, the plant has to grow into a tree and produce the ripened fruit. So while doing these things, don't get diverted to something that is not the ultimate goal. Keep the ultimate goal in mind and make a progressive march back home, back to Godhead. And that is made possible by the most important component in spiritual life, which is the chanting of the holy name. Those who are always in touch with the Japa, chanting of the holy name in all occasions, whether you are happy or sad, you always chant the holy name. Gajendra was in a very terrible position, he chanted the holy name. Ambarish was in a happy position, he was always chanting the holy name. Whenever he went to the temple. So always keep the Lord with you in the form of the chanting of the holy name on a daily basis and chant faithfully, sincerely. Understand what is the life of Aryans, what is the life of the progressive Suras. And don't walk the path of Asuras. Asuras, Asu means immediate. Ra means Raman. Those who want immediate sense gratification, they are called Asuras. And Suras means those who align with the Lord's will, with the happiness of which comes gradually over a period of time. But it is everlasting happiness. Asuras get instant happiness and instant suffering also, immediately followed by suffering, like that. So, but the beauty of the Shastras is, Shastras don't close doors for Asuras. Asura can also become a Sura. Prabhupada said Europeans and Americans, they were eating meat, drinking wine, doing everything. So I went to America to convert the Asuras into Suras, Prabhupada says. Those who are living an Asuric life, now Prabhupada has given them life of, with Daivi Sampat. And therefore, all these training programs which we do is ultimately aimed at giving up our Asuric mentalities of killing the animals, drinking wine, eating meat, all dirty lifestyle, which gives instant pleasure but long-term suffering. Give up those activities and look up towards the progressive life given in the Vedas by the word of God, which will ultimately bring us everlasting, boundless happiness. And our eyes open to these truths by chanting the holy name. Those people who agree to chant 1 round or 2 rounds or 4 rounds, gradually their eyes started opening to the truth and they became enlightened. It's like switching on a light in a dark room, chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki